Good morning, viewers. In this session, let us study the poem A Far Cry from Africa, written by Derek Walcott, a West Indies poet. In this poem, we are going to study the cultural clash between the colonizers and the colonized. And we study the problem of identity of a mongrel. Mongrel is a person who has two descents. And we understand the various interpretations of the title of the poem, Far Cry from Africa. And we try to appreciate the various images and figures of speeches used in this poem. After studying this poem, we must be in a position to identify the destiny of Africa in the hands of the European colonizers or settlers. We understand the dilemma the poet and the like of him face having dual heritage. We also learn the power game played in all the cultures, and we learn to appreciate the beauty of the images and figures of speech used in this poem. Derek Walcott was born in the year 1930 and he died in the year 2007. We came to know that in the last session. And he was born in an island called Saint Lucia in West Indies. You see, I told you in the last slide that he is a mongrel. Derek Walcott is a mongrel. He had an African and the European descent. He inherited the richness of two mixed cultures, African culture on the one hand and the European culture on the other hand. He was a poet, playwright, painter, teacher, and so many other roles rolled into one. He wrote his first poem. The poem is titled 1944 at a very young age of 14. His first poem, the title of the poem is 1944. It was written when he was just 14 years old. And he brought out so many collections of poems. 25 poems, selected poems, The Castaway, The Gulf. These are all some of his anthologies of poems. And he wrote some plays. Dream on Monkey and Other Plays was published in the year 1970. He is the founder of the Trinidad Theatre Workshop. He also is the founder of Boston Theatre at Boston University in America. And he founded it in the year 1981. And he received a Nobel Prize for Literature in 1992. You see, this poem, A Far Cry from Africa, is taken from his collection of poems, In a Green Night, published in the year 1962. This poem consists of 3 stanzas of 10, 11 and 12 lines respectively. You see, the first stanza consists of 10 lines, second stanza consists of 11 lines, and the third stanza consists of 12 lines. He doesn't follow the set rhyme scheme in this poem. If you look at the structure of this poem, in the first stanza, the poet presents the conflict between the Kikuyu tribal people of Kenya and the settlers or colonizers, the British. So the conflict between these two is very well presented in the first stanza of the poem. In the second stanza, the poet presents the typical and picture carried out by the colonized and the colonizers. In the second stanza, we come across the picture of the hunting. Both the colonizers and the colonized go for hunting. That picture is presented in the second part of this poem. In the third part or in the third stanza, The poet refers to an historical events like the wrestling between gorilla and Superman, and also refers to the Spain Civil War. And the poet's dual heritage and his dilemma is also presented in the third stanza of this poem. This is the overall picture of the poem. First, let us know the Kikuyu and British clash in Kenya. The poem begins with the reference to tawny felt of Africa. Africa is a country or a continent. Tawny felt refers to the undressed animal skin. So Africa is just like an undressed animal skin. It is a raw country, uncivilized and uncultured as the Europeans say. But it is a natural country. It is quite natural without having any modern amenities and other things. It is a wild country, tawny felt. So the wind is ruffling as the poem begins. The poet talks about the wild nature of the African continent. He refers to the continent with a reference to an animal skin which is undressed, and then he talks about the wild ruffling wind. So the wind refers to the clash between the Kikuyu tribal group in Kenya and to the British colonizers. So the wind, which is very ruffling, very rough, refers to the clash, conflict between these two, colonizers and the colonized. So the British occupied certain parts of Kenya in the year 1950s. In 1950s, British occupied certain parts of Kenya. They colonized certain parts of Kenya. When they colonized, the Kikuyu tribals in Kenya found it as an illegal trespassing on their land. Quite naturally, when the outsiders trespassed on their land, took control of their lands and their administration, they felt that the Europeans, particularly the British, illegally trespassed on their land. So Kikuyus formed an anti-colonial organization called Mau Mau Fighters. Mau Mau Fighters is an organization of the Kikuyus. They formed this organization to fight against the British colonizers, and they fought with the British for 8 long years. And in the year 1963, Kenya gained independence from the British and declared Kenya as the republic in the following year. So this is the clash between the Kikuyu tribal people of Kenya and the British colonizers from the Europe. So the bloody consequences of colonial takeover. The colonial takeover of Kenya was not a smooth one. Bloody events were reported. Bloody events took place while colonizing Kenya by the British. Kikuyu were the fighting group. They are the tribals. They were as quick as the flies. The poet uses the term Kikuyu were as quick as the flies. Their quickness is compared to the quickness of the flies. They lived or thrived on blood streams of the wealth. Wealth is a not cultivated or not forested land. These Kikuyu people lived in the open areas in Kenya. The corpses are scattered in the paradise, Africa. The poet uses the Kikuyu people were killed by the British colonizers. The corpses were scattered in the paradise. Africa is considered as a paradise on this earth because of its natural beauty and also because of its abundant natural resources. But now in that paradise, Only corpses can be seen everywhere because of the clash. That is why the poet says or talks about the bloody consequences of colonial takeover. It was not a smooth takeover by the British. There was a clash between the colonizer and the colonized. The colonized people fought against the British a lot to retain their freedom, their land, their culture, and other things. So it is a metaphor. Paradise is converted into a battlefield where corpses, dead bodies scattered everywhere. Then the poet talks about the worm, Colonel of Carrion. Colonel of Carrion is an army officer, is a British army officer. The poet calls him a worm, not a human being, he is a worm, because he warned not to show any compassion to the dead Kikuyu people. When the British killed so many Kikuyu people in the fight, the colonel of the Carrion or the British military officer warned all his subordinates not to show any compassion to the dead people. Be very, very cruel with them, even with their dead bodies. So there is a personification. The colonel is compared to a worm. The colonial policy is supported by the official statistics and academic facts and figures. The colonial policy that they imposed on the Kenyan people or the tribal people is supported by the official statistics and the academic facts and figures. We find the bloody consequences of the fight between these two, Kikuyu tribal people on the one hand and the British colonizers on the other hand. We get the details of this fight in official statistics, in the government departments. All this is recorded, and even in academic facts and figures. We find the details of this in academic studies, in researches. The innocent natives were killed like Jews. So there is an allusion. The poet refers to the killing of the Kikuyu people, to the killing of Jews in Germany during the Second World War, where Hitler killed so many Jews on the basis of purity of Germans. So the innocent native people were killed just like Jews. It was a racial holocaust. Next, the poet talks about the ant picture that was practiced in Kenya. The natives are employed as beaters of animals from the bushes for hunting. The European colonizers or the British went for hunting in Kenya. Whenever they went for hunting, they appointed the natives or employed the natives as the beaters of animals from the bushes for hunting. Quite naturally, the animals were hiding in the bushes or in their caves. While hunting, those animals had to be driven out from the bushes. That is why these British people employed the Kikuyu people or the natives to beat the animals from the bushes so that they can very easily hunt the animals. So there is an hunt picture. Hunting picture is presented in the second stanza. Africa is a land of ibis birds from time immemorial. The ancient bird of Africa is ibis. We can find this bird from the dawn of civilization in Africa, and hunting is a common activity in Africa. Quite naturally, the people went for hunting in Africa. They lived on hunting. The violence of beasts on beasts is a natural law. The poet talks about the violence, the law of the land or the law of the jungle, where violence of beasts on another beast is accepted as a natural law, but it is not accepted in human society. Jungle law is the might is the right. Generally, the mighty animal kills the smaller animals and survives on them. So there is a law called might is right, jungle law. It is natural also, quite natural. In order to survive, the bigger animals have to kill or hunt the lower animals or minor animals. But in human society, it is not accepted. In civilized society, it is not accepted. But the British colonizers, who are the upright men, who say that they are the powerful people, divine people, representatives of God, civilized and cultured people, they seek his divinity in inflicting pain on the tribals. These cultured upright men from England, in the name of divinity, in the name of God, inflicted pain on the tribal people. They mercilessly ill-treated the tribals, natives, killed them mercilessly. They did not show any compassion to these people, even though they say that they are the upright people, civilized people. These civilized people are behaving just like animals. They are killing the human beings just like the bigger animals kill the smaller animals. So this their nature is sadistic and they are very delirious. Their sadistic nature is very well presented in this poem. So the tribals quite naturally celebrate their victories in hunting, and in some tribal wars they beat their drums made up of killed animal skins. That is the way of their celebration. They beat the drums and dance to the tunes of the drums. So the power game. The tribal leader calls for bravery, but tribals dread the white face signed by their ancestors. Some tribal leaders want to fight against the British colonizers. He calls for bravery among his men, but some tribals are scared of the white face signed by their ancestors. They give respect to the white face. White face is an agreement made between the colonizer and the colonized. When they came to this land and they made an agreement with the local people or local leaders that they are here as the representatives of God and their job is to civilize these local people. That agreement made these people helpless to fight against the British colonizers. Even though some tribal leaders made an attempt to fight against these colonizers, some are not ready to fight against them because of the agreement they made in the name of white peace. So these white people or the colonizers tied the hands of the fighters. The settlers, they had a brutish necessity. They are very, very brutish in nature. That was their necessity. That was needed for them to rule the other parts of the world. They applied their brutish necessity and they washes their hands or guilt on the napkin of the dirty causes. They create the problems among the natives. Wherever they went, they made the people fight among themselves. They divided the people with various issues. That is the dirty cause. They washed their hands, guilty hands with dirty napkins. They used corrupt political issues. And these settlers, they are very, very brutish. They go to any extent to get their things done or achieved. Even in Spain, the poet cites an example of Spain. It is an European country where there was a civil war between the democratic republics and the fascists, which started in 1936 and went up to 1939. It was a civil war between the democratic republics and the fascists, which went on for 3 long years. So there was a clash even in Europe, not only in Kenya and other European countries. The clash was between the people. It shows the brutish necessity of the Europeans or the English. In Kenya, Kikuyu people, the natives, fight with the Superman. Superman are the settlers because they call themselves as superhuman beings. They are the divine representative, civilized, cultured. So there was a clash, fight for the game. Power game was played. No compassion was shown to these native people. All the compassion shown goes waste amid the fights between the two groups. So in the last part of the poem, Walcott talks about his dual heritage. Walcott is a mongrel. Mongrel means he is an half African and half European. He has his ancestors from both races, African races on the one hand and the European races on the other hand. So he is a mongrel. That is why in the poem he uses the phrase poisoned with the blood of both. He has got the blood of the Africans on the one hand and the Europeans on the other. His blood is poisoned with the both the bloods. So he is a product of mixed cultures and has divided loyalties. He is the product of the two mixed cultures and he has divided loyalties. He has his loyalty to the Europeans and he has his loyalty to the Africans. So he is caught between these two. He is in a dilemma. He cannot support one and reject the another since he has got both the bloods in him. So he cannot give up his native Africa for his English. He cannot embrace the British and discard his native African people. So he is accountable to both the cultures. He is accountable to the British on the one hand and to the Africans on the other. He cannot support both and he cannot betray both. He is cursed, but he curses the rule of the drunken British officers. The drunken British officers, they carelessly rule and kill the Kikuyu people in Kenya. That is why Walcott, who witnessed all these things or knew these things, cursed the rule of the drunken British officers. He cannot face the violent slaughter of the natives and be cool. He saw the violent slaughter or killing of the native people and he cannot be cool against the British. He cannot accept everything that is done by the British. He opposed it, he resisted it. Besides, he cannot turn away from Africa and live happily. He cannot turn away from the African people and live very happily with the British. So his identity crisis. He is caught between these two cultures. He has an identity crisis. He finds it very difficult to identify with one particular group and neglect another group. It is his identity crisis. He expresses his predicament through many rhetorical questions in the poem towards the end of the poem. He is in a dilemma, in confusion, and he expresses his predicament, difficulty through many rhetorical questions in the poem. So the title is very significant and ambiguous. It leads to many interpretations and it has many shades of meaning. For the first level of the title, the first meaning of the title is like this. The poet is far away physically and metaphorically from Africa. Derek Walcott is too far away physically and metaphorically from Africa because he lives in West Indies. But his ancestors are there in Africa. He is basically from Africa, but now he lives in West Indies. That is why he is too far away from Africa, he is native physically and metaphorically. Now he is writing on Africa. He writes on Africa and their problems, their history, their fight, sitting in West Indies. So he cries, he opposes the settlers' exploitation of the local people. The British exploited the Kikuyu people in Kenya. They killed them mercilessly. They did not show any compassion to them. But the poet sitting in West Indies is crying aloud like a far cry from Africa. Even though he cries aloud, his voice is not heard by the British or by the Kikuyu people. So his far cry means a futile attempt which does not yield any results. That is the first level of the title's meaning. The meaning of the title of this poem. Far cry from Africa. Poet sitting in West Indies is crying for African people, his own ancestors. But it goes waste. It is a futile attempt. He cannot rescue his own people. Second one, a belief that Africa is a very rich and paradise on the earth is a far cry. The second meaning of the title, far cry from Africa. Africa is a very, very rich country and it is a paradise. This was the belief people had about Africa. But it is a far cry today. Far cry means it has no valid meaning today because its richness is looted. The paradise is converted into a grave. That is why we cannot call it as a paradise now. It is not paradise because its richness, natural resources, abundant natural resources have been looted by the Europeans. We can no longer call it as a paradise. It is a far cry. Calling it as a paradise is a far cry. The poet, though far away from Africa, can hear the cry of the natives due to their loss of cultural identity. The third level of the meaning of the title. The people in Africa are crying, are mourning for the loss of their own values and cultural identity. Their cry is not heard by the poet, since he is in West Indies. It is a far cry which will not reach or which will not yield any results. So the poet, using the phrase far cry in the title of the poem, not only exposes his anti-colonial outlook through the title. The poet exposes his anti-colonial outlook. The poet is against colonialism, even though he has the blood of the British in his body. He opposes the colonialism of Africa, but has tried to justify the fact despite sharing the culture of the civilized. He shares the culture of the civilized people since he has their blood in him. He cannot discard the past. Even though he has the blood of the British in him, he cannot discard his past blood, his origin, Africa. So, the poet is against colonialism. He is against colonialism and he supports anti-colonialism. So, let us revise whatever we learnt in this particular session so far. We learnt the colonization of Africa undermined and subjugated the natives. It is very clear. Colonization of Africa undermined and subjugated, suppressed the native people, native Africans, Kikuyu people in Kenya. Second one is that Africa is a rich paradise. Africa which was considered a rich paradise, was turned into a violent battlefield of exploitation, and corpses are scattered everywhere in Kenya. Earlier, Africa was considered or called a rich paradise. After colonization, it was turned into a violent battlefield of exploitation, and it became a graveyard because corpses are found everywhere in the land, in the paradise. And colonization turned Africa into a mixed and hybrid country. Colonization made Africa an hybrid country or a country of mixed races, because with the mingling of cultures and races, two cultures mingled, and at the same time these two races mingled. They had a matrimonial relations, and they had their own issues from these two races. So we had an hybrid race called mongrel, like Derek Walcott, who have the blood of both the cultures. Colonization turned Africa into an hybrid country. We find the mixed races of people in Africa today. The poet and the like of him faced a dilemma of identity, having the dual heritage. There are so many people like Derek Walcott, the poet, who have two bloods in them, and they have their own problem of identity, dilemma of identity. They cannot completely identify with the Europeans or with the Africans. So they have their own identity crisis. That is also very well discussed in the poem. The poet does not favor one over the other. The poet does not favor one particular race or culture over the other. Rather than that, he focuses on the injustices of both the cultures. He only talks about the injustices of both the cultures. He does not favor one culture over the another. He used ample animal imagery in the poem and historical references to criticize the savage aspects of both the cultures. Europeans call the Africans the savage people, but the savageness can also be found in the Europeans. They behaved like savages while killing the Kikuyu people and exploiting them, and they did not show any compassion while killing them. That shows their savageness. The poet points out the savage nature not only among the British but also among the Kikuyu people. Let us revise whatever we learnt in this particular session by answering a few questions. The iconic bird of the Africa mentioned in the poem is crow, parrot, ibis, peacock. Yes, ibis is the iconic bird mentioned in the poem. The Kenyan tribe that fought with the British is Julu, Imba, Yoruba, Kikuyu. Kikuyu tribe is the Kenyan tribe that fought with the British. The poet Walcott had the descent from which one of the following pair? American and European, African and American, African and European, Canadian and African. Yes, the poet Walcott had the descent from Asian and European races. One of the European countries mentioned in the poem is, the poet mentions one of the European countries in the poem: Spain, France, Austria, Denmark. Spain, the poet talks about the Spanish Civil War between the two groups in Spain. The fight between the Kikuyu and the British is compared to the fight between Europeans and Americans, Gorilla and Superman, Caribbeans and Africans, Spanish and Republicans. Yes. The fight between the Kikuyu and the British is compared to Gorilla and Superman. These are the books that I refer to for preparation of this presentation. Thank you for listening.